depending on how you want to call it, more. And a lot of times buyers will say, well, do you think I really need it? Oh, I don't know. And really, we don't know.
Do you know how many people have water in their basement?
No, but I mean,
Do you have your basement system?
well, then you call them. Then you call them if you have water in your basement. Then you call them and they'll stand behind it.
Part of the problem that is, I'm Diane Bailey, 680 West Main. What's exacerbated here is there's many different builders on our streets. And we were told when we came in, there's supposed to be a swale behind our house. Well, the builder behind us in Campion Court isn't done building, so he hasn't bothered to complete the swale. Well, guess what? People halfway down Main Street, there's some whose basement walls are falling in right now because of the water. And these are only homes.
Well, now, I was at that house too. Now, that's not exactly the,
No, it's not
the
the whole story, but
whole story.
just in the water, they put so much dirt around. You're building up those homes on Campion Court so they would have those folders and walkout basements. Those homes are so high, and it's just running all back into our yards.
Well, you may have a swale issue, and that's different from everybody else's issue. And they're all can be solved, and there should be
They're
solvable.
not solving it, and we were told it all run down to.
Well, I can't answer that one for you, because I don't know, but, and I don't know what a neighbor does to,
Yeah, it's supposed to drain down by you. Yeah, that was the answer to everything, and go down there.
So Roger, before you sit down,
Are you one of the developers in that area back there?
I'm one of the owners of Westfield and Larson.
Okay, so you will be a part of this
Yes,
process?
yes. And we right now can prove, we can prove we're not putting any water there. We could defend it in court, that we're putting half as much, or whatever the ratio is. But that doesn't, every time you guys have a problem, it's a black eye for everybody in town. So we all want to work on it together, even though I had nothing to do with it. And if you notice, the people that had something to do with this, where you're at, is not here.
Mm-hmm.
But there's things that can be done.
And that's basically, I think, what everybody wants to know is,
what do you got, Mark?
you know.
I'm just curious about that porta pond as far as where it needs to be set. Can they put like a mechanical thing in there so you overshoot it by a foot, Public Works can go down and adjust it, let the water out, or if it's flying through, get it raised up? I mean, because every rain event's gonna be different.
There hasn't been any water in it.
Yeah.
Well, what happened on the, you're talking on the north of Porter Road?
Yeah.
Okay, what happened was, there's two ponds there. There's a pond you see, and then if you get binoculars out, you can see there's a pond really north of that too. Now, the pond north of it is called a wet pond. That will hold water, and its purpose is designed to let the water clean and get itself taken care of before it comes through on normal events. Well, then that has a spillway that once it reaches its level, it overflows and it fills the big pond. And the big pond only got to the first ring. I don't know the acreage, but a lot more room. A lot more room. So the V is what we had happen to the V was it got a kink in it. And that was brought up at the last meeting. So we had the welder go out yesterday, I think it was.
He got rained out.
And he got rained out, he started to weld and it started to rain. But he's got it where he's gonna turn it, put it back in, it's got concrete slits that it slides in, and the one bottom part came out. Now, according to the engineer, the amount of water that bypassed there was insignificant to the amount of water that came from everywhere else. But the point is, we still gotta fix it, because if we don't get it fixed, maybe it could have blown out of there. And then we lost all 400 acres of hold. So we're on getting that fixed, and we'll be glad to talk to the engineers on where the V level should be. And as whether it should be mechanical, that's a question for the smart people.
You're saying we need more windows? Obviously, 6th Street, other than the one that does not drain, but the one that's behind our homes, is there a possibility of making that bigger to hold more water?
Well, see, the problem is you don't have the volume of the bottom.
Well, I know, but
That's-
we want to come into your subdivision and make it bigger.
Yeah.
Well,
Another lake, if we have to.
well, it's not that simple. They're all good ideas, and that's all possible. There's other areas that should be done where it's actually lower.
We just,
There's other areas there where that should be done, that's actually lower.
Well, that's what I would like to hear when I leave here today, because I was here at the spring meeting, and a few of us were here, and we kind of voiced our concerns about how it's always wet over by us, and we're at the bottom of the bowl, so now we know that. But we kept being told that there's not a problem. I was told, I think that was the clear message I got when I left here. You went on and on and on about all the studies and the engineers, and so I believed that, and I got confident enough to start finishing my basement, and now we're flooded. So I don't want to leave here today knowing that you guys are going to do something about us at the bottom of the bowl.
Two things you have to think about on your issue there is, the city can do what efforts it can to stop stormwater and get rid of stormwater. But when your pumps are running, that's groundwater coming this way.
Right.
That you need to, if you have a proper system, you should be dry. So you need to look at, to make sure your system's good that way, and everybody going through this now's, for some of the damage that's occurred, now's the time to check that and see. The people that I mentioned earlier, they'll have to look in to find out, why isn't my pipe coming back this way? Now, when we look, most of their water was coming in on the side away from the pit. So it's kind of like, well, what does that tell us? If the pit overtopped, then it would tell us the pump can't keep up, but the pit didn't overtop. So it meant the water didn't get into the pit to get it pumped out.
I got two inlets coming in, but the water never ran any faster than maybe a garden hose.
Did you get water in your basement though?
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you get it? The bottom at where the basement?
Right to the cracks.
Well, see, your drain tile, you don't have a good system.
That's why my pump is running twice a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, it never, like you said, the basin's not filling up fast enough to get the water away.
See, your water is sitting underneath your floor and it's not getting to your, it'll go obviously to the easiest place. It's not getting in your pipe.
Right.
And so it's not the easiest place. So you may not have rock or enough rock to let it go there. So if this is your basement and your pit, your lines are on the outside and your pump's over here, your water that's coming up here isn't able to find that pipe because there's too heavy a soils for it to get to it.
That's my guess,
But now,
based on the people that came and gave me.
And, you know, hindsight,
Happened.
everybody would have said, boy, I should have done triple the waterproof job because that's the cheapest to do it then.
Unfortunately, I didn't build my house.
Yeah.
So I would have built my house, and if I would have known if I was building what I know now, I definitely would have.
And then the other side of the coin is nobody should have openings down. There's some openings that are too low up there. Openings back of the basements, you get windows. Everybody wants to get exposure in the basement. That's a great, great thing to have. But what the number he's talking about, that is top of wall. If this is top of wall, and you go to the curb, and then you go 2 feet above that, that's where they want the foundation. That means that's where you're supposed to be. That doesn't mean you can go over here and now put a window in it. Because now you're not at that elevation. And there's a lot of houses up there that have that. And that's just not where it's supposed to be.
So the building inspector, she wouldn't have noted that when?
Well, they can't, it's not their responsibility to review your design. That's my opinion now.
But I guess, don't they work for the city?
Pardon?
Do they not work for the city, the building inspectors?
Well, they work for the city, but what they're concerned basically, and of course we let someone else say it's his only opinion now, is to look for, do you meet state codes? Are you safe? Has it been put in properly? They can't have, I don't think they have the right to come and tell you, you shouldn't have a window.
Well, I guess what is the point of the city saying it should be 2 feet high then? Because it's
Well,
just-
that's a good thing. You know what happens is a lot of them don't follow it. And maybe that, I bet out of this meeting, something will come of it that'll say there won't be any more of that going on.
Roger, I got a question for you. There's 10 acres of land behind all these people's property. Why does the city purchase that, fill those swales up and taper that runoff so the water runs right into the creek that you got dug there and take it away? Take it away.
They're all good
That'd be the
possibilities.
most intelligent solution.
That's all things that I'm sure, if they haven't thought of, they thought of now.
I mean, we could say we could try that, but again, it's pretty complicated, and I mean, you're talking about.
It's only 10 acres.
Well, Jim, that's a possibility.
You're still talking about annexation, and you're talking about
It's-
intergovernmental cooperation, which
Has anybody approached the owners yet? Talk to them?
we'd still have to have cooperation with
Oh.
Union Township, and I can tell you right now, it hasn't been going.
And the fair market value is 156, 800. I got this out of Rock County. Be a lot better than a lawsuit.
Jim, they're all possibilities. There's other possibilities now, shifting gears to the Sixth Street pond that has water in it, down by Vision. There's discussion on trying to get an outlet out of it, so that it can drain quicker. In other words, that's a bathtub without a drain.
I do have a
So-
question in reference to that bathtub. Do they plan on putting up fence or anything?
I don't know that, that's not, I'm not, but they've talked about how can we put a drain in that
Right,
bathtub.
right.
And if we can't get to the bottom of the bathtub to drain it, because we're so darn low that we're right back in the water, can we drain the bathtub up a ways and take all that off so then it seeps quicker?
Yeah.
So that's all in motion. Your Public Works and your city is working on all of that.
Well, thank you for explaining that. That has helped tremendously. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose.
Dave, you say that, Tony Wise,
Yeah, I know you are.
that you took the creek to its limits according to the DNR. Did I understand that right? A while back, summer years or whatever, you tried to redesign the creek back there. And this gentleman talked about how if that were deeper or straighter or whatever, get that flow from that north Porter Road pond. And kind of a line that blocks the west flow. If the DNR was aware of these people's discussions tonight, have they been known to adjust their rules or their curriculum? Because we've got an issue here that may need to go further than what their limits are currently. Have they been known, or would it be beneficial for us to approach DNR with these citizens' concerns as a solution?
No, we are definitely talking to them. I have
Okay.
not stopped talking to them since 2004.
You
And
need
we
to-
will continue to
Okay.
Now, one of
press
the,
that envelope, because
Good.
that's gotta be done.
one of the things Dave talks about is everything is governed by DNR, and our person for this area who just got promoted was Mike Halstead.
Halstead.
And he was the one that reviewed this whole plan and what he wanted to do, and he's an engineer too, just like all the rest of them there. But it's just not simple. I mean, you don't want to hear that, but it's true, it's not simple to find out what way to go. And again, I want to just say this last thing, will the city get it where there's no water in your greenway, drainage way? Probably not. What can we best hope for is probably keep basements from getting wet and try to get rid of it as fast as possible. And those things are possible. They're not easy, but
I
they're
think we would be
possible.
happier if we saw water flowing.
Pardon?
I think we would be happier if we saw water flowing as opposed to just.
Well, see, when you get down in that whole circle down there, it is darn near flat. So it's difficult. Now, when you mentioned, can we go downstream, go past the Croft Road Bridge? The problem that opens up is you can't really dump water into another neighbor. That's where they run into problems. When I mentioned when we did ours, we cut it in half. See, we couldn't do that downstream, whoever's coming down there, because they couldn't do that either. They'd have to not flood somebody downstream, so it's tough. It's tough to figure.
Ma'am, I can see it.
Thanks. I'm the house that's right next to the drainage pond on Sixth Street. And my question is, I'm really glad to hear that there's hopefully a solution coming.
What's your name?
Christie, with the whole drainage thing. But my question is, will the extra drain in that pond keep water from backing up in our backyards? It's really a dangerous situation for having children and having a waterway pretty much sitting in our backyard and it's not going anywhere. So my question is that gonna help that situation?
Probably not during a heavy rain. The rain we just experienced, you're probably gonna get pretty much what you just experienced, and that's because it can't get out fast enough. You're a bathtub down at the bottom too, to some extent, and you can't tip your bathtub over because it's too shallow. So what happens is, the reason you get it, and Dave helped me on this one, the reason they get it coming backwards in the ditches and it runs back through there is because it's building up and it can't get down that creek fast enough.
Well, I was told that it was supposed to go over, drain over to the Portage one, which the Portage one always, Porter. The Porter one always overflows and comes back into the Sixth Street one. So it's like a constant water flow in our backyard, and that's why people are riding their canoes back there.
Well, I don't know that, so that'd be an engineering question. I don't know that.
It all revolves around this in this area west of the city, which is not in the city, as that is flowing and that all that water is coming toward us, toward the residential area, it has to get from there to the south, and that is causing the water to flow in a backwards condition. And that's, we know that's part of the problem. We know that's, in order to get a solution, that's what we understand that now more than, you know, we learn every day. And that's what we gotta solve. And
One of the things to keep in mind though, if you take the rain we had even in one event, if you start out at whatever it was, 8 inches or 10 inches, whatever, and we eventually got to 25 inches or whatever that is, if you take that over 1,800 acres, that's a huge amount of water. And that's where our problem is, we gotta slow that down. And versions of what was done on Porter Road is what we need.
Does anyone else that hasn't already spoken have anything to say?
Well, I need a drink.
I think you're reading my mind.
Mason?
Yeah.
We're committed, our group is committed to, even though we're not directly involved, it gives everybody a black eye. We don't want you suffering. And it hurts everybody. We're committed to work with the city on anything we can do. And we'll stay involved with them. So I encourage you to attend the Public Works meeting. Because this isn't gonna go away. They're just, if you leave tonight, they're not gonna erase this from the agenda. This is something that's a hot burner for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if no one else has anything to say, I will conclude it with a few comments. First of all, I want to make sure that everyone signed the attendance sheet, because that's the only way I know the numbers of people that are here and everything else when I go back and do the minutes. I mean, I can easily see that there's a lot of people here, but, you know, if I get, you know, it could be 28, 30, whatever. Make sure you sign the attendance sheet, please, if you haven't already. We're committed to do everything that we can. There are certain things that we don't have control over. We don't have control over private property. We don't have control over areas in Union Township. Anything that we want to do has to go not only through the state via the DNR, but also Magnolia is involved too because of where the water flows down. So we're talking about a significant amount of cooperation and a significant amount of work with different entities. But we're going to forge ahead and do that. I've heard some pretty good ideas here tonight. Wrote them all down. You know, there's obviously a couple aspects with all of those ideas in which you know, you're dealing with possible purchasing of property, possible annexation. Obviously, that doesn't come out in the public because of
So everything
negotiation.
that's undeveloped behind there is the town of Union, is that what you're saying? Or is
Yeah.
that-
Yep.
All the rest of it, everything else is county union, yes.
Yeah.
So you are in the process of annexing that to become the city, or is it still gonna stay the town?
Well, that's a step that would be way down depending upon if that's even a viable solution. We're not gonna attempt to purchase land for, you know, just for stormwater flow if it's not gonna work. You know, and then you gotta also realize that they may realize what we're purchasing it for, and that might negatively affect them on the south end. And they may block it on that basis. We don't know. I mean, it's speculative at best. So, but what we do know and what we can do, the little things we can do right now, we're gonna go forward with.
Which is, what
Can
do
we
you?
hold the city somewhat accountable by asking for email updates or something like that, just to kind of know what's going on and what's happening?
Sure.
Yeah, the website, I go to the website all the time to look for stuff. The website would be a good place to post updates on that.
Sure, I can, know that, but obviously this is going to be on the agenda pretty much from here on out. And you can, on the website, you can find contact numbers and everything else. I mean, really, we don't really do a whole lot of emailing because it would be like having an unnoticed meeting. I mean, we do everything at the meetings in public. believe it or not. And, you know, we already put in a lot of time in this job, that we're not having extra secret meetings and, you know, stuff as well, so. The best bet would be to maintain, you know, either attendance here or watching the minutes as they come out from the meetings. Also, you could, my advice, I guess, unsolicited advice to you would be to come together and have an ad hoc neighborhood association with a couple representatives that can always be available at the meetings.
Well, that's what our council member was supposed to be.
And that's fine, and
Your job, Brett?
I will receive complaints. I am happy to do that. I have gotten maybe 3 contacts from people, okay? I'm one of your aldermen, yeah. You have another one who represents the same district. I'm not sure how many contacts people have made with him. But yeah, I'll be happy to take information. I cannot solve your problems instantaneously. All I can do is be a clearinghouse, and I will bring your concerns to this meeting if you can't be here. But you've got to talk to me. I can't, I've sent out a few emails to people inviting, because I had their email addresses and I knew where they lived, telling them that they had to get their documentation in by this morning. I sent it out as soon as I got it from the city administrator, forwarded that on. But unless you come to me, I'm not going to go around knocking on everybody's door and saying, what's your problem?
there is a practical sense of how much time you have to give. It's a lot easier, and I know for me that, my neighbors, the ones that live directly around me, know a lot more of what's going on in this town because they'll come over and ask me. You know what I mean? And there's sort of an ease to that. I mean, if you were to put together, a rep or, someone that was, it may help to get the information quicker. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, please.
I'd just like to give an update on FEMA. Just so that you know, the city didn't delay in trying to get you information. Rock County let us know, I believe, but our first contact that it might be coming was last Thursday. When they notified us, I knew your neighborhood was most likely concerned about this, so we tried to get flyers out on Friday to give you notice. We were notified yesterday at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock. They were coming this morning. I'm sorry that, it was so short.
But did they come?
They did come.
I got a phone call stating that they were going to be
Yes.
between.
They didn't even check out our basement.
I was with them, and what I would like to do is tell you the process, because I went with them this morning. They only went into one house, and it was an older woman, and she was unsure about if water got to her furnace. So they checked out to see that situation. What they were really trying to determine was the extent, how many houses had damage. And so they did not go into any houses. We went to houses, and they asked a series of questions. It was typically how much water was in your basement, was your hot water heater affected, was your furnace affected, did you need a new furnace, that type of thing. How, sort of the extent of what you had in your basement, very generally. It wasn't an inspection to try and check out what you had filled out on your sheet. It was more to understand the extent of the damage. We did get back about 40 of those forms. We estimate there's at least probably another 40 out there, maybe more, maybe double that, we don't know. We tried to do the best we could fast. This was county-wide, so they're checking out all through the county. Evansville, in terms of number of residences, was the largest number, but in severity, I don't know. They said they would make a determination in a few days, hopefully by the end of this week. The county emergency management said the total was approaching $1 million for the county. But that's a lot less than some of the ones that were over along the Mississippi River. So, but they stopped after about 20 houses. We were told they were gonna come to everyone, but they did stop after they felt they had enough information after about 20 houses. And so they left about noon. We didn't have time to call everybody that, was not approached. But, so it was very basic. What will happen if they would make a determination is they will give a number to call at FEMA and you get application, or they take your application by the phone.
How do we get contact, us via phone or?
I'm not sure, I think you would call them, but it would be first if they make the determination that the county is eligible. And it's probably low-interest loans. There might be some minimal grants, but typically, therefore, if you can't live in your house. So we really aren't sure. We haven't done this before, so. But that was, it was kind of an interesting process walking around. There was a person from FEMA, a person from the Small Business Administration, 2 people from Wisconsin Emergency Management, and the Rock County emergency person.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, if there's nothing else, we're gonna move on to the next agenda item. I thank each and every one of you for coming out